Hello everyone. Today I'm going to tell the next story in my series of bringing remedies to life. The remedy that I'm going to talk about today is Carcinosin, and the idea behind the stories is to interweave the symptoms of the remedies into the story so that you can understand the remedies more easily. Forgive me if you hear any noises while I'm recording this video. You can see my little sausage dog sunning himself in front of the fire. The story is called Carcinosin, A Suppressed Life. Carson stood on his balcony looking out over the water. The lightning danced over the sea, and soon the crack of thunder echoed across the bay. He felt a sense of exhilaration, and he remembered wanting to run out into the thunder and rain as a child while his sister cowered under her blanket. It was 4 a.m. in the morning, and he had woken too early, like he often did, his mind busy, but today it was for a different reason. He chewed the tips of his fingers as he thought about the day ahead. It had been a long and painful journey to reach this day. Carson was the eldest of 3 growing up. And whilst his family had not been poor, they had struggled, his parents often working more than one job to make ends meet. They had emigrated from India to England in the 60s when Carson was 7. Like many, they were enticed by the marketing promises of a new life and jobs. But the welcome and the life were a far cry from what was advertised. From early on, Carson was left to look after his brother and sister, who were 3 and 5, while his parents went to work. His mum would leave plates of food in the fridge with strict instructions never to open the front door to anyone. Those were frightening times, especially when his sister got sick with a fever and vomiting. He tried to comfort her and clear up as best he could. He remembered trembling as he walked to the front door and slowly opened the latch and opened it and peered outside, praying for somebody to walk past so that he could ask for help. But then he would see the angry faces of his parents, and he closed the door, leaning back against it, his hands sweaty and his stomach cramping with anxiety. He couldn't bear to see his sister suffer. He could almost feel her pain. He turned on the radio and went to cuddle her. Soon, the gentle melodies drifted through the air and soothed his anxious soul. The evenings brought no relief. When his parents returned home, that's when the shouting began, and most of it was directed at him. Whatever he had done during the day was never good enough. Looking back, he could see that his parents' anger was due to stress, but as a child, he felt powerless and wept as they admonished him. Every day, he tried harder and harder, hoping that the next day it would bring kind words and even praise from his parents. Each day, as the evenings drew near, his anxiety would heighten. And the anticipation was almost too much to bear. What would his parents think this evening? His head would begin to hurt. Eventually, going to school brought him some fun. He could play with his friends and forget about home for a few hours. At school, he discovered dance. Moving rhythmically to the music brought him a sense of freedom and exhilaration that he had never known. He danced at every opportunity at home when his parents weren't around, and his brother and his sister giggled watching him and imitating him, but he didn't care. He just felt free. He would find magazines and cut out adverts for dance shows and dream about travelling the world in a dance troupe. At secondary school, Carson enrolled into dance classes without telling his parents. The teachers were so impressed with his abilities that they entered him into dance competitions, and he excelled. Soon he was signing all the permission slips for dance trips by himself, knowing that his parents would think it was a frivolous activity that would detract from his studies. He worked hard at school and his grades were exceptional, but even then, his parents would always find some reason to criticise and to pressure him to work harder. He even began to drink coffee to fit more hours into the day, but it didn't agree. So instead, he started to snack into the late hours of the night, eating spoonfuls of salty butter, his favourite, and chunks of chocolate that he secretly bought with leftover money after the grocery shopping that he did. He was lucky that his parents never attended any of the parents' evenings at school. Instead, they would pore over his report card and his assignments, finding some way that he could improve it, and would always criticise. Somehow, then he managed to juggle every day until his final year at school. His parents received a letter. The letter invited them to an award ceremony where Carson was to be given a prize in dance. He remembered that evening so clearly, and thinking about it now made him well up with anger. He remembered pleading with them to let him continue dancing, but they just saw red. They were furious. They called up the school and forbade him to take part in any dancing activities, shouting, "What was he thinking? Would that ever get him a good job?" He was heartbroken. His sleep began to suffer, and he lay awake at nights, weeping from the injustice and thinking about how he could escape. And escape he did. Now, 10 years later, Carson stood looking over San Francisco Bay. He had worked hard and saved enough money to leave home. He changed his name and then eventually signed up with a prestigious dance school. His brother and his sister were really happy for him, but his mother and father were furious about his life choices and had disowned him. The pain and anger from that meeting with them, which was 5 years ago, had faded. But the bitterness and the hurt from the lack of support from his parents still stung. Today, Carson was anxiously waiting, not for his parents' approval, but for his stage debut in a dance musical. He was finally free. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know in the comments. From that story, you can see lots of the themes of carcinosin, the remedy. The suppression is a big part, the domination of the family, the parents, and the sensitivity, the empathy that he had with his sister, the kind of symptoms that he then got, you know, the sort of stomach pains and the headaches and the insomnia, all are very typical of carcinosin, even the desire for butter and salty things. So yeah, please let me know what you think, and watch this space for the next story. Thank you.